Hi, this is Peter McLaughlin with BlueSky Hypnosis. Welcome to Friday Live at 5. Back after a 2-week hiatus for the Christmas holiday and the New Year's holiday. I hope if you celebrate those holidays or whatever holidays you celebrate that they were all really great for you, that you were able perhaps to be with family and so forth. It's good to be back. Today we're going to be talking about healing the past to move forward. So in some ways, I've dedicated my whole career to this concept that as long as we're holding on to wounds from our past, it is really hard for us to move forward in any meaningful way. And by wounds, I mean old traumas. And obviously those traumas could have occurred earlier in our present life. It could have occurred in a past lifetime. And it was finally breaking into that concept of past lifetimes where I feel like I was really able to help people make a significant difference in their lifetimes, in their present life, by letting go of the things that were plaguing them, that were holding them down. Standard disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I am a life coach and a hypnotist, so please take everything I say with a grain of salt. Secondly, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions. That's what makes these broadcasts really interesting for me, and I hope for the people that tune into them. And if you're new here, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel moving forward so that you can access all the content that I produce, whether it's kind of virtual sessions where you can take yourself through, for example, a past life regression or meeting your spirit guide or losing weight or all the other topics that I have, or these live broadcasts, which after they're live, they're kept as static content so that you can access and watch them in the future. So without further ado, I want to go into a question. Well, let me actually start with one of the questions that I posed on the little promo for this, which is, how do old wounds from your past actually hold you back? Like, how could it be, for example, that something that occurs in a past lifetime is you're still dealing with it today? And what would an example of something like that be? And I guess I would start by using an example from my own life. I did a past life regression with myself not long ago where I took myself into a past lifetime where I was in the middle of a battle. It was like in medieval times with swords and spears and so forth. And it seemed to be happening in the summertime. And it was kind of like in the thick of all of this with the sound of steel clanging and various smells. And I was doing everything that I could and giving and taking. And at some point, I was wounded a couple of times. And I just remember rolling down a hill, kind of like you do if you ever did that when you were a kid, just rolling down like a log down a hill. And lying at the bottom of this hill and hearing the battle off in the distance and looking up at the clouds above me and feeling like I had been a failure. And then I died. And then after that, I was reunited with my family from that lifetime, which was a wife and 4 small children, very small. And while I was doing this regression, sitting in a chair in my office right here, and I encountered my wife from that lifetime, whom I don't recognize as anyone I know in this lifetime, and I encountered my children, whom I don't recognize as anyone in my present life. I burst into, which is really common, these deep, racking sobs, tears streaming down my face, and kind of my chest heaving, and it never fails to amaze me at how powerful this is. You know, again, consciously in this lifetime, I have no idea who that woman is or those children, and no idea who they are. But I really believe that when we do these past life regressions, part of us is, yeah, sitting in the chair and it's Peter and he's sitting there. But then there's another part that is like the past life self has risen to the surface. And these two personalities, these two beings, if you will, are existing kind of side by side with each other. And that all of those powerful emotions, to me, have always been a kind of, at least to me, to be a kind of proof point. Like, where's all this emotion coming from? Consciously, I don't know who those people are, and yet I'm telling you these deep, racking sobs. And the reason why I felt so horrible is because I wasn't able to protect them. And I had this feeling like I didn't do enough. And my guides were saying to me, you died on the battlefield. You did everything you could. And for me, it still wasn't enough. And there was a scene where when we were reunited with each other, where I was playing in a field with my children. And, I'm still crying and everything. And they said to me something like, Daddy, it's okay. You did everything you could. Let it go. And I really believe that through this process, I let go of something pretty powerful that I believe has been affecting me in this lifetime. I don't know how deep I'm going to go into how it's been affecting me, but it has to do with feeling like, even though my kids in this life are more or less grown, and the youngest one is just under 20, that I still have this responsibility to protect them. And I can say that after I did that session, that sense of like, I have to be there, I have to do these things, even things that I really have no control over, has diminished significantly. And it feels like a huge relief. So that's, one very recent personal example that I can give you about how a past lifetime can affect your present life. And this is my 15th year of doing this work with clients. And I can tell you that, over and over again, these kinds of things will come up. Things that continue to plague someone. People are carrying around things like shame, and they're carrying around guilt, and they're carrying around feelings of inadequacy and so forth. And I say that those feelings were created at a place and at a time, either earlier in your present life or in a past lifetime. And that the original insult, the original wound, represents the root of that weed. And we know that in order to really take care of a weed, you can't just mow it, cut off the top of it. You have to really get down into the soil and pull it out by the roots. And I feel like the same thing is true for us with whatever it is that's plaguing us. And I would say that in general, we have three main areas. I've said this before on the channel. I hope I'm not, repeating myself too many times, but our physical and mental health, I would say, is one main category. Our finances and our professional / business life, the thing we do, is another big area. And then the third big area are relationships. And that could be, of course, romantic relationships, but it could also be relationships with siblings, with parents, and with children, and with friends. And, if we're struggling in one of those areas, the seeds, the root of that struggle is in the past. And in order to move forward, you can't be dragging a ball and chain behind you. You can't be dragging all of these old wounds behind you. And so that's, obviously what today's topic is about. I want to take some questions. I see some people who have tuned in, which is awesome. And I want to see, who's here and what people are saying, because this is where it really gets interesting as far as I'm concerned, is when we can start to engage with each other. All right. So, Dara. Hello, Dara. Good to see you here. And Marie Hogan, shout out to you. And Dee, I recognize you. Welcome. Susanna Kusto is here from Finland, and it's midnight. Welcome, Susanna. Glad to have you here. And Estelle, you posed a question to me by email, and I've got it here, and so we'll be getting into that in a little while. So good to see you here. Hello, AW. Good to see you here. Let's see if we've got any questions. People are just kind of wishing everyone and me Happy New Year, which is wonderful to see. Here, Susanna from Finland, I think you said, right? Finland, yeah. Okay. The traumas from past lives can make you behave in strange ways. Oh, I'm going to just put it up on the screen. I'm getting a little rusty here. The traumas from past lives can make you behave in strange ways. The reaction to some things can be totally exaggerated with no apparent reason. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And what's so interesting about this, and I'm really glad you brought this up, is that we could say that a person's reaction is inappropriate. We could say that it's out of proportion to whatever it was that happened. But to your point, Susanna, if you really did suffer some kind of a trauma where a person says something or you're in a situation that serves as a trigger, it could make perfect sense. And that if we really understood the larger picture, I don't think we would necessarily say that your response was inappropriate or out of proportion, or that you were crazy for behaving in that way. And I just have to wonder, even in cases of people who are diagnosed with mental illnesses, and I'm just wondering now, I'm not saying this is a fact, how many of these people actually are dealing with things that the doctors and the psychologists and you and I just don't understand about what they are experiencing, what they're going through, and what they've experienced in the past. So, in the case of what you're discussing, if a veteran came back from war and they hit the deck when a car backfired or when somebody set off a small firecracker, I don't think anybody would say they, quote unquote, overreacted, because they would all understand they're probably suffering from PTSD. But how about just the average person who dealt with something in a past lifetime? We have no idea what that is. Maybe even the person themselves has no idea what that is, and they behave in this way. Over time, they may begin to feel like there is something wrong with them, like they're crazy, rather than there is a precipitating or a root cause for this phenomenon, for this way that they're reacting. So really good point, and thank you for raising it. This is one of those examples of, I wouldn't have gone there other than you making that observation. So thank you for doing that, and glad you're here. Let's see. Here's Todd Hunt. Todd Hunt is saying, how do I know something in a past life is affecting me in this life? Great question. And I would say the way I deal with this is we start with one of those three areas. If you've got some issue with your physical or psychological health that's kind of bothering you, if you've got an issue with your finances or business, like something just isn't quite working, or you're struggling more than you think you should be, or you've got an issue going on with a significant relationship in your life, then we would want to know, okay, what is the root cause of that issue? And one of the things that I suggest to people that they can do on their own all the time is use an ideomotor tool. I like to use a pendulum. And on my YouTube channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, if you haven't signed up already or subscribed to it, please do. Go to that YouTube channel and just type in pendulum under the search for the channel, and it will bring up a video that teaches you how to use a pendulum. So let's just say that you're having some kind of a physical issue. You've been diagnosed with a disease, for example, or you have this weird back pain and it just won't go away. Use the pendulum. It teaches you, again, how to calibrate it, how to make sure that it's operating properly, and then ask the pendulum, which is really asking a deeper part of you, the part of you that we would alternatively call, what does your heart tell you? What does your gut tell you? What does your intuition tell you? Or people would say, sleep on it. They're all grasping at this concept that there's a part of you that is wiser than your conscious mind. Use the pendulum and ask, is the root cause of this back pain something that happened earlier in my present life? If you get a no to that, ask, is the root cause of this back pain something that happened to me in a past life? Let's say, for the sake of argument, you get a yes answer from the pendulum to that question. Now you know that a past life is affecting you in your present life with respect to the lower back pain. Next, you'd want to know, Was I injured in a past lifetime in my lower back? Was I wounded in my lower back? Did it happen as a result of an accident? Did it happen in battle? Did somebody intentionally hurt me? And you can start to winnow down what the root cause of that is. So, excellent question. Hope it answers it for you. So thanks for asking that, Todd. Mr. Mind Meditation, shout out to you. Glad you're here. Dara O'Sullivan. Here we go. Let's pop this in and see what he's saying. Peter, hey, after upgrading my phone, I realized I was disregarding new tech to bring my phone to a familiar setting. Maybe I did the same entering this life. That's awesome. How do I access my new tech? Thank you. I love the way you create this parallel between technology and spirituality, which I actually think that there's a lot of that. So I think many of you have probably heard of the Akashic record. The Akashic record is everything that has ever been spoken, every action that has ever been taken, every thought there has ever been is all contained in this thing called the Akashic record. And I think for the sake of us as human beings, sometimes it's portrayed as a huge book, or it's portrayed as usually like a big library, right? We can kind of get our minds around that. Well, because of the times in which we live with the concept of the World Wide Web, of the internet, we can, and obviously the internet doesn't contain everything, but compared to what human beings had access to, say, 20 or 30 years ago, it's kind of mind-boggling what you can find on the World Wide Web, on the internet. And in a way, that technology, I've often thought, I think it mirrors the concept of the Akashic record. And I also think that there's something too about how things used to have to be physical, like a physical book. And now it's just ones and zeros. It's just digital. It's ephemeral, but it's nonetheless still real. And I kind of think about that, about the spiritual world, the spiritual architect, that it's not necessarily, something that's physical. It's non-physical, but it's still very much real. And I think, in a way, maybe unconsciously, we seem to be mirroring some of these concepts through technology. So your question is, how do you upgrade your software? Which is an awesome question. And I would suggest that you contact, and I've got, this, Dara, that I've got videos on my channel, my YouTube channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, which helps you to meet your spirit guides. I think it's a really good idea to meet with your spirit guides daily and ask them and just say, what am I supposed to be learning right now? Is there something I'm supposed to be learning? Are there old wounds that I need to heal? What's the next step, or what's the next stage of my development? Some of those tracks actually have you asking your spirit guide questions like, what is my purpose on this planet? Why did I come here? How many lifetimes have I been working on this purpose? It could have been, this could be your first lifetime working on something, or it could be your 6th or your 10th lifetime trying to learn the same lesson. If that's the case, it's like, what's the most important thing I need right now in order to learn this lesson, in order to go through this upgrade? And a lot of people, and I don't know exactly what to think about this, but a lot of people talk about this period of time as we have shifted from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, as a time of we're all upgrading, we're all going through an upgrade, and that a lot of the chaos and the tumult has to do with this shifting from an old consciousness into a new consciousness. And I believe that our spirit guides are present to help us from the non-physical plane take on these new ways of being, and part of that, and that's the theme of today, is healing and letting go of the ball and chain of the wounds of the past that we're dragging around behind us. Because when you let that go, obviously you can move much more easily into the next phase. So great question. My answer to, again, to sort of condense it, is to contact your spirit guide. Ask the question. Ask for their help. We don't have to do this alone. So thanks for that. Rupa. Rupa says, can you see my past life from your end? No, I cannot. There are people, I believe, who can. People who are psychics, people who are channelers. I don't know a lot about that, but I don't hold myself up as someone who can do that. I will say this, however. There's a term, I believe it might be called cymatics. I think it's called cymatics. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's called cymatics. And I was introduced to this maybe 10 years ago at a hypnosis convention. And I was doing a class that pertained to past lifetimes. And the instructor had us pair up. And these are all hypnotists in the room now, so everybody's got some degree of comfort and so forth with altered states of consciousness or different states of consciousness. And I paired up with a woman, and they said, you know, give an item, like a necklace or a ring or a watch or something that you wear all the time, to the other person. And the other person gives that item to you. And you spend a certain amount of time in kind of a dimly lit room just staring at this object. And I can't remember what she gave me. It was probably a ring. And just let images come to you about by staring at this object. In this case, as I say, I think it was a ring. And what happened for me in staring at this object she gave me is immediately I saw like a hut, and the hut was in a village, and the village was under attack. There were people screaming, there were fires going on, and I could hear in my mind's ear, I could hear the sounds of the hooves of many horses that were galloping. And I could see this, a young, I think it was a young girl, might have been a young boy, underneath this hut, like hiding underneath the hut. And the thought kept coming into my mind, the king is dead, the king is dead. The king is dead. And I saw a man that looked like a chieftain, and he like had an arrow in his throat or something like that. And so after this period of time where we're both silently allowing this object we had exchanged to create whatever it creates inside our mind, then we had a chance to compare notes with each other. And when I told her what I had experienced, it's like she kind of turned white, like she'd seen a ghost, and she said that she had had a past life regression earlier that day at this convention, and she was in Ireland, and her village was under attack, and she remembered having the thought, the king is dead. So I don't sit here and say I can see your past lives. I don't hold myself up as that. But in my experience of, now this is my 15th year of doing this work, at that hypnosis convention, in that one exercise, I was able, I think, to see the past lifetime of another person, but it was through an object. And it's something that, frankly, I think we all have this capability. And like anything, like throwing a football or skating on a pond in Finland, the more you do it, the better at it you get. So in my usual way of creating a very long answer to a short, simple question, I hope that helps. So thanks for asking it. Let's see, here's Jedi Moody is listening in from Houston. Welcome. Mr. Mind Meditation. Past lives can affect you in the now for sure. Can be anything. I used to be scared of water. It seemed that in a former lifetime, I was murdered by drowning. Okay, yeah. So what I'm interested in, Mr. Mind, is let us know, if you will, after you had that past life regression, did you find that your fear of water or fear of drowning abated? And in the past life regression, was there a moment at which you worked, or the practitioner you worked with, worked on healing that past lifetime? Because I think simply stated, this is like when I was an EMT. You know, when you're an EMT and you go to a car crash and there's somebody lying on the side of the road, or they're in their car and they're screaming, your first step is to do a rapid assessment of them, a rapid physical assessment to find out where they're injured and to understand as quickly as you can exactly what's going on with them. So in other words, if you see, you know, bleeding over here on the neck or something, you're not supposed to immediately start treating that. You're supposed to do a rapid assessment to find out what else is going on with them, because there could be something that's even worse. So the rapid, or the assessment, if you will, is the first step. And then the second step is you do something about it. So if there's blood coming out of here, you got to stop the blood flow. I think the same thing is true when it comes to past life regression, or even regression to earlier in your present life. You want to understand what's going on. Pendulum is one of the tools to use for that. Spirit guides is another one. Or actually exploring a past lifetime is, in a sense, like finding out where was this problem created. So in this case, the fear of drowning. But then the second thing is that I ask myself is, now what? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix that? And what I say is that in order to heal a past lifetime, was one of the bullet points I put on my promo thing, you have to heal that earlier incarnation, that earlier version of you, who in a way is still arguably could still be in a trauma state. So you want to bring that earlier version of you forward. So let me back up. Explore the past life. You're able to see, understand, and hear what happened. You now understand where the pain is, where the wound is. You bring your former self to a sacred space that you've already created, where your spirit guide is also there. Now you know how to help that person. And your former self could have been a child, it could have been an adult. You said it happened when the person either murdered you or tried to murder you. That might indicate that we need some kind of forgiveness that goes on between you and the person that tried to murder you. Why did they try to murder you? Were they jealous of you? Did it mean that they would get something that you had that they wanted? Did you humiliate them? Did you reject them? Did you try to murder them? Like, all of these things would be pieces of information we'd want to understand, because that would then lead us directly into the healing phase of how to do this healing. Once the healing is complete, in your case with the drowning thing, I think I would go a step further and say, okay, let's go swimming together. But let's not just go dive into the deep end, past life self, present life self. Let's go into the shallow end. Let's just be in the water together in a state of joy, not in a state of terror. And then, given how comfortable or uncomfortable that past life self is, once you've healed the wound, you work up to where you're both swimming together, kind of playing and enjoying the water and frolicking together. Once that's done, you'd want to get some advice from your past life self. Now that you're healed, tell me what I need to know for my present life. Once that's done, then you want to integrate past life self with present self. So the two of you who've kind of been fractured by this old wound or trauma and have been separated are now unified, because you're supposed to be unified. You want that healed previous version of you to be living inside of you. So really cool. And I'd love to, if you're willing, I'd love to hear you kind of update and let us know, if you're willing, if your fear of water got better after you did the past life regression, and if in the past life regression there was kind of a healing component to it. So thank you. All right. Lisa Manning, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Lisa. Legal Eagle 44, good to see you. Welcome back. Let's see, here's somebody here from Decatur, Alabama. Renee Adams. Hello, Renee. Dana Simmons. Hello, Dana. Dana Simmons is saying, when I am sick, weird things happen. I am aware of spirits. I have some experience with that too. And I don't think that's uncommon. I think when people get sick, in my experience, it's like a fever, that we move into a different state of consciousness. People will often use the word altered state. I've been trying to stay away from that word, because altered implies that it's somehow unusual or abnormal. And I say that the hypnotic state, which is the same state as the meditative state, which is the same state as deep prayer or having a fever, are all natural to the human being. And that when you're in these states, if you were in an MRI machine, part of your brain would light up that was formerly dark. Part of your brain would go dark that was formerly lit up. And when these things happen, you access different capabilities that you have. This is the whole concept behind doing a past life regression and wanting a person to be in a deep meditative state, wanting a person to be in a hypnotic state, or sometimes it happens in dreams, because that's where you're helping them access the tools that they already have to go to these places and to have those experiences. So it makes sense to me that you would be able to access spirits when you are, I think you said when you're sick. Yeah. And maybe it's, and let us know, is it when you actually have a fever, or is it only, or is it, just when you have like a stuffy nose? Because in my experience, it's like the fever. The fever does something to me. I just want to write poetry, and I feel like I have all of these insights when I'm in that state, when normally that's not something I'm drawn to do. So thanks for making the comment. Sister Legal Eagle and Brother Dara. AW. Hello, AW. And here's Waffle Queen. Hello, Waffle Queen. Welcome back. Marcella Ort. Marcella says, I had very strong feelings about a couple of things as long as I can remember. Could the past life recordings help me find out what I feel happened, or would I be better to work with someone? So the first thing that I would say, Marcella, is that I can't say for sure because I don't really know you, and it's hard to say, just based on a couple of sentences. What I think you could do as a starting point is you could do what I had suggested earlier to, I think it was Todd Hunt, and that is go to my YouTube channel, search on pendulum, learn how to use a pendulum, and start working with the pendulum. And ask these questions. You could ask, is this something that is in my highest and best interest to clear on my own, listening to one of these audio sessions, or is it in my highest and best interest to work with someone? If the answer to that is yes, you can start asking about different people, different practitioners. That's how I think I would approach that one. Because again, I don't know how intense this may be or how sensitive it may be, but the pendulum is a decent place to start with that. In fact, when I work with clients one-on-one, I teach my clients how to use a pendulum, and that's one of the first steps that we take. So we first start with kind of collecting information about that person as an individual, their past in this lifetime, what they remember, what they know, where they're struggling, what difficulties they have. We talk about their dream life. We want to see if there are patterns there. We talk about if they've had any paranormal experiences, then we move into using a pendulum, and then based upon that, we start moving into the work. And the work that we do really depends on that information that's come beforehand. So that's what I would suggest, is start with a pendulum. Okay. Todd Hunt, cool. Thank you so much. I will learn on the pendulum. Good. Let us know what happens with that, Todd. And here's AW. Hello, AW. Root beer. What if there are people in your life who you don't want to be in another life with? Great question. One of the reasons that I'm hesitating with this is I'm trying to figure out how best to describe this. So and this is just the way I look at things, which I think is what Shakespeare was writing about when he said, all the world's a stage, all the men and women are merely players. He also said that life is a poor player who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard from no more. Now, I think he is heard from no more, just not that personality, just not that character. So I make this distinction between the character that the actor is playing in this production versus a character that they're playing in another production, the one that they played in a production 10 years ago. Those characters are different, but the actor is the same. And each time the actor takes on a new role, he or she is informed by that role, but the role doesn't define the actor. I make that parallel with the lifetime we're living right now is kind of like a role that we've taken on. And the actor, if you will, is what people would call your soul or your spirit. So what your character wants might or might not, but it might be different than what your soul or your spirit wants. So when you're in the game, when you're on the stage, if you're a really good actor, you're going to be true to your character. You're not going to behave in ways that would be unsupported by the text. But you're going to behave in ways, arguably, that your real personality would never do in real life. So I hope this is not too complicated. I hope this makes sense. That what you want, what I want as my personality in this lifetime, I might make a different choice when I'm in the spirit realm, when it's my superconscious or my soul or my spirit that is looking at a much larger canvas of what has happened and what needs to happen and what I want and what I don't want. I would also say that I believe that free will is, and this is my standard response to free will, if not the most important law of the universe, it's right up there. So if your soul or spirit decided at the end of this lifetime that it didn't want to be in another incarnation, period, or in another incarnation with a particular, with another being, you wouldn't have to do that, because the law of free will is always at play. You cannot be forced to be in a lifetime with someone. Could you be persuaded? Could you do it reluctantly? Yes, absolutely. And I definitely run into people who were reluctant to incarnate into this life. They did it, they agreed to it, but they didn't really want to. Or they were reluctant to have something else occur in this lifetime, but on some level they agreed to it. So, long way of saying, which is my way of being, sorry, that if your soul or spirit decided you didn't want to incarnate with that person, it wouldn't happen. You can't be forced into it. So hopefully that answers the question for you. All right, Lisa Manning. Hello, Lisa. History always repeats itself until we learn the lesson we were meant to learn. I'm still trying to find out what that is. Career-wise, I always get to a certain position and cannot break past it. Yeah, Lisa, I'm going to give you a round of applause from all of us on this. So yeah, one of the things that I wrote about in my promo here was patterns repeat. What is yours? And that's another way of saying that history repeats itself. Or George Santayana, those who will not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Absolutely, 100%. And it's so common when we investigate what a person's lesson is for this lifetime and how many lifetimes have they been working on it, to more often hear multiple lifetimes they've been working on that lesson, not just one. It's not just like one and done. These are really important, powerful lessons. And it seems to take us more than one lifetime to learn them. So yeah, I get this. This is so profound, what you're saying. And it makes sense to me to get to be able to, first of all, to be able to observe a pattern. When you can observe a pattern, okay, there's something there for me I need to deal with. What is at the root of that pattern? So with you, with the career thing, what's going on there? It's a great question to ask. And again, I would refer you back to the pendulum. Or work with somebody, work with me if you want, but finding out what that is, is it low self-worth, low self-esteem, low self-value? And that, like a thermostat that's set to, 62 degrees, every time the furnace gets around 61, 62, 63 degrees, thermostat kicks in, says, furnace, turn off. And so the furnace shuts back off. And the person's going, how come it's so cold in here? How come I can't, seem to get it higher than 62, 63 degrees? Maybe once in a while 64, and then it always goes back down. And it only goes down to 59 or 60, and then it kicks back on again. Your thermostat, for some kind of emotional or psychological reason, seems to be set at a lower point than what you want. The trick is twofold. Why is it set to that lower point? When did this happen? Was it something about your earlier lifetime when you were growing up? Was it something in a past lifetime? So just, and I don't know you at all, but I'm just throwing out these things that I've seen in the past. And I'm not saying this is what it is. It's just an example. So one example could be that you abused, say, some authority in the past. You were in a position of authority. You got to a place in your career where you were in charge of all these people. Maybe you made a lot of money. And as a result of this, you hurt other people, or you hurt yourself. And so part of your mind's like, not going back there again. So when you start to get to that point, you slide right back down. Start to get to that point, you slide right back down. That's just one possibility. So, again, I sound like a broken record today, and sorry about that, but I would refer you, if you're interested, check out the pendulum. Figure out, is this pattern something that was created for the first time earlier in my present life? Or was it created for the first time, its originating point in a past life? And then you could dig deeper. Is a trauma the root cause of this pattern? Is it something that pertains to a relationship? Am I dealing with karma in my present life? In other words, am I balancing karma? If so, did I hurt someone in a past lifetime? All of these things would be wonderful to figure that out, because now you'd have targets. You'd know what to go after in order to heal it and to change that pattern. Once you got to the root cause and you resolved or healed the trauma that created that pattern, the next thing you'd want to do, and you don't have to do them sequentially, you can do them simultaneously, is you'd want to flood your deeper subconscious mind with the thoughts and the messages and the suggestions and the affirmations that you want in your deeper subconscious mind. And the way I think about this sometimes is I think, okay, outside of my office, there's a parking lot and there's asphalt there. If you and I wanted to build a garden there, we could throw seeds, suggestions, affirmations, messages, and suggestions onto the asphalt, but it's probably not going to be terribly successful because we have the obstacle of the asphalt that's there. The asphalt in this analogy being akin to a past life trauma, that ball and chain you're dragging around with you. If we do the hard work of clearing out the asphalt and we churn up the soil, now when we put the seeds down, they're going to be way more successful. And I think that this is why, excuse me, for some people, just affirmations, just suggestions, just straight up hypnosis doesn't really work well for people, because there's a powerful obstacle under there that is more powerful than the suggestions that are coming in. So hopefully that helps, but great observation. Thank you for that. Okay, Jason, excuse me, Jason Durham. Can't stay to watch. Hopefully this will be available to watch again. Yes, as soon as we end the live broadcast, it automatically goes up on my channel, BlueSky Hypnosis. Make sure to subscribe, and you can watch it at your leisure later. And it'll be up there, indefinitely, as long as YouTube lets me have a channel. So thanks for that. Renee Adams. My husband has a memory of being in a war. He remembers raising the American flag. He does believe he died after raising that flag. In this life, he's never been in the military. Yeah, I mean, this is more common than you might imagine. There's a great story called Soul, S-O-U-L, Soul Survivor. And it's about a little boy who is having memories of being a fighter bomber pilot in World War II in the Pacific Theater. And at this very, very young age, with limited or no exposure to the information, he was pulling out all these facts about a particular fighter bomber pilot, who flew a Corsair. And he was able to name his wingman, the name of his wingman. He was able to name the ship, the baby flat top aircraft carrier he was on, which he would have no way of knowing the name of that. It wasn't one of the big aircraft, it was a little one. The name of the battle, where his plane was hit. And when the family did investigations into this, they found out, yes, that was the name of that baby flat top. Yes, it was in that battle. Yes, it had this squadron aboard it. Yes, it had a pilot by that name. Yes, it had another pilot who was the first pilot's wingman of that name. Yes, the pilot who was shot down and killed, his plane was hit in the very same spot. His wingman saw it happen. And when they brought this boy to meet the dead pilot's surviving sister, who was now elderly, the surviving sister was so convinced that this was the reincarnation of her brother that she gave this little boy all of her dead brother's personal effects. Incredible. Like, you know, and the question for your husband, I guess, would be, is this old memory of being killed in battle, is it affecting him in some kind of, is it holding him back in some way? And if it is, it might be a good thing to clear. So yeah, thank you for adding that bit of color, because as I say, it is actually way more common than you might imagine. So thank you. Okay. Oh, here's Todd Hunt has another question. If possible, what's the meaning in higher vibrations? So I think that this is a really interesting question. It's a simple concept, and if it's something that you really grasp onto, I think it can help in your life a lot. I think about this concept a lot. So Nikola Tesla, who was the genius of the 20th century, he invented a lot of the technology that we're still using in our daily lives, and was really, really, really a genius, absolutely brilliant. He said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, that everything can be reduced to its vibratory state. And a vibration is either going to be a low vibration or somewhere along the scale come up and be a high vibration. We have sayings like, well, and I wanted to say one other thing. If this were a champagne glass and you were an opera singer and you hit a particular note, this champagne glass would shatter in my hands, even though you're not physically touching it. The reason is that the note you hit and held would be the same frequency at which that champagne glass is already oscillating, causing it to break. There was a man named Royal Raymond Rife in the 1920s who developed a machine, technology, where under medical supervision, he was able to cure multiple different kinds of advanced stages of cancer by isolating the frequency at which these pathogens were operating, delivering that same frequency to the pathogen, and then watch that pathogen explode, kind of like the champagne glass. So thoughts have a frequency. Thoughts about fear and hate and resentment and animosity and jealousy have a very, very, very low vibration. Thoughts of love and compassion and forgiveness have a very high vibration. Your emotional state is going to go high and going to go low. The food you eat either has a high vibration or a low vibration. An apple, a very high vibration. Processed food like a candy bar has a really low vibration. Music that you listen to, all of these things are going to affect you. Water is affected dramatically by vibration. If you're interested in this, look up Dr. Masaru, M-A-S-A-R-U, Emoto, E-M-O-T-O, who did this whole study on water, where he would expose water to sounds, music, words, even write a word on a water bottle and stick it on the water bottle and then freeze the water. And as it's freezing, it takes on a shape that would either look like a beautiful symmetrical crystalline snowflake, or it would look distorted and sick and twisted. He could even take polluted water, that just the polluted water when frozen would look sick and grotesque and twisted. He would take the same water and have a Buddhist monk pray over it, and it would turn it into this beautiful crystalline snowflake-like formation. And the idea is that the words themselves, along with music, along with all kinds of stimuli, create either a high vibration or it creates a low vibration. There's one other example, if you're interested in looking this up, and it's called cymatics. Did I use that word before, or was I trying to, I'm getting confused now, but it's called cymatics, C-Y-M-A-T-I-C-S. And that is where you put sand on a thin sheet of metal, expose it to sound, and then the sand arranges itself in these different patterns, these incredibly complex patterns. And once again, if it's this it's this sort of beautiful whole tone, it creates a beautiful image. If it's something that is destructive, it creates something that's, again, kind of grotesque. And I think that the hippies in the 1960s, under the influence of different kinds of psychedelic drugs, actually were able to see into the truth of this. And so they talked about, good vibrations and I get your vibe, or we're vibing, or whatever. But I think that there is actually a basis to this, which Tesla did a great job of describing. So the thoughts you hold in your mind, the food that you eat, the music you listen to, the TV shows that you watch will affect your vibration, because you're mostly water. And water is affected dramatically by different vibratory frequencies. So again, a really long answer. I hope that helps to elucidate your question, and thanks for asking. Here we go. Dana Simmons. Dana says, I have a serious illness and I am so desperate to heal. I believe I was a healer in a past life in Africa. I believe I need to heal myself, but not there yet. How can I get access to get help? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that your conventional bases are covered. You want to make sure that you're under the care of, a qualified physician, and make sure that they're looking after you, that they're giving you, their professional advice and expertise and experience and opinions, and make sure that those bases are covered. The next step, the kind of work that I do, for example, is really looking at the kind of psychological, emotional piece. So if there's something in a past lifetime, for example, or earlier in your present lifetime, that is contributing to whatever the illness or the dis-ease that you are experiencing, we would obviously want to try to look at that and clear it. Again, you could work with a pendulum and try to find out, is the root cause of this disease something that happened earlier in my present lifetime? Is it something that happened in a past lifetime? Is it in my highest and best interest to do X, Y, Z? And I'm not telling you to take what the pendulum says as the final word. You have to take into account what your doctors are saying and so forth. But it's another stream of information that can help potentially lead you to a solution. Excuse me. The way I got into this work in 2003, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and a form of leukemia on the same day. And through many different iterations and fits and starts, it led me to doing this work, because I realized, after doing a ton of research, how much power the mind has over the body. The body is essentially following the mind. So I think, in addition to the conventional treatment that you're doing, it is wise to find out, do I have old emotional wounds that are contributing to this disease? And one of the first places, again, that you could potentially start would be in using a pendulum, and use that to then dig deeper into certain areas. So, my sincerest best wishes to you. I think that concept, that we talked about with Todd Hunt, of keeping your vibration high, both in terms of the food that you eat, if you're doing supplements or herbs, that your professionals are recommending to you, the images that are coming into your eyes regarding, like, if you're watching television or movies, the images that are in your immediate environment, paintings on the walls, doing meditation or prayer, the food that you're eating, all of these things affect us dramatically for good and for ill. So, I would suggest looking at all of these things, and I hope something I've said has been of help to you. So thank you for posing that question. And again, my sincerest best wishes to you. And if there's anything else I can do for you, please reach out. Okay. Happy New Year to you, Colleen. Good to see Colleen Bailey here. And here is Susanna from Finland. Meditating is a solution for many things with getting ahead in life. I meditate every morning and every night. And no, you don't have to silence your mind while meditating, just concentrate. So absolutely, there are certainly different ways of meditating. Some people, as you point out, talk about just clearing the mind. Some people have a mantra. Some people focus on one thing. When I do this, I consider it more of almost like self-hypnosis, where I take myself through the same process every time, where I go to what I call a sacred space, where I meet with my spirit guide, with my guides, where I meet with a couple of beloved deceased relatives, where I'm able to communicate with them and get support and get advice from them. I know that, as I mentioned before, that I'm going into the same mind or brain state as a person who is doing more maybe transcendental meditation, or they're doing more traditional meditation, or they're going into deep prayer. These are all the same. But if you do the research, which it sounds like you've done, Susanna, that even the conventional literature talks about all of the amazing benefits of being in this state every day. And for anybody like, Dana, dealing with a serious illness, putting yourself in this state especially for a significant period of time every day, is documented to help your physical body heal itself. Joe Dispenza is a person at the forefront of talking about how the mind can heal the body. And Dana, I would definitely suggest, if you haven't already, look into Joe Dispenza and the kind of work that he's doing. That's another possible resource for you. So thank you for that, Susanna. D has a question here. DH, hello D. I'm wondering if a past life relationship could be affecting my current relationship, because I could meet someone for the first time and either instantly connect with them or not at all. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the common ways that we all sort of can relate to this concept of living previous lifetimes. You go to a party and you meet a person, meet someone else, and it's like, boom. People will literally say, I feel like I've known you my whole life, after just talking for 5 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is. And I think that these could easily be examples of having known this person in a past lifetime. Now, could your present relationship be affected by a past life? Yeah, it could be. It absolutely could be. I see this all the time in my practice. Where someone is, let's say, having a difficult relationship, and it turns out that in a past lifetime that you did something nasty to them, and that when that's resolved in this lifetime, oftentimes those relationships clear up. They get a lot better. I had somebody write to me not long ago that had the same thing, like with a boss, like a horrible relationship with a boss. And I can't remember all the details of what she was saying, but she did something in a meditative, hypnotic state that pertained to the person who's a boss in this lifetime. And just like I've seen many, many times in this life, it's like the relationship turned around, like magic, like a miracle happened. So yes, I would say absolutely that relationship, whatever it is, could be part of a larger mosaic, could be part of a larger fabric, where something that happened in a past life is affecting what's going on now. And again, you could use a pendulum and start to investigate this and see what you find. So thanks for asking the question. And I want to make sure I get to this one before we close for the day. And what I want to do just real quick is just talk about next week, which is, let's see, get rid of this thing and put this one up. So next week, we're going to do one of our open roundtables where, I encourage people to just ask questions on any of the topics that we deal with on this Friday Live at 5. So it could be spiritual, which is past life regression. It could be future progression. It could be spirit guides. It could be life purpose. It could be karma. It could also be things about how do you use hypnosis to help with weight loss? How do you help if somebody has chronic migraines? What about low self-esteem? What about issues with relationships? So all of these topics and more are kind of up for grabs, and we just kind of spend more, as much time as possible dealing with, questions from people who've tuned in that run the gamut. So that's going to be next week. And again, if you haven't already, that's down here somewhere. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And that way, especially if you subscribe and hit the bell notification icon, you become alerted of any time I post new content. And that could be like a virtual session where you're taking yourself into a past life regression, or you're working on weight loss or something. or it could be the category of these lives, which, as I mentioned before, are stored permanently on the channel. All right, so there was a question, and actually I think it was, okay, it was from Estelle. So Estelle said, I was thinking, why did we experience so much hurt and trauma from others in past lives only to have to heal it again in this life? Did we deliberately choose the horrible experiences, or were they a result from choices that we made in the past? What about the really deep, dark stuff like a painful death or being betrayed by somebody? Was that chosen too before we incarnated, et cetera, et cetera? So I can only answer from my own personal experience. And this is based on working with probably well over 1,000 people over the last 15 years. And the way to really assess this, and I like to be able to do this in a case-by-case basis, is to do something known as a life between lives regression. So one of the ways of doing this is you take someone into a past life, you take them to the time they die, and then you take them beyond their death. So consciousness survives death. They move from the death in that past life, and they go into something known as the life between lives, which I think of as our permanent home. That may be heaven, that may be Valhalla, but it's like, as I said, it's like our permanent home. And you can do something which is, you can take them to a pre-life planning session. So it seems as if before we're born, we are making decisions in conjunction with our spirit guides and with other people that may be in our soul group or people that we incarnate with. And we are making decisions like, what body am I going to get into? And you might have 3 or 4 choices. Which body am I going to choose? What is my lesson for this lifetime? Am I choosing difficult situations or circumstances? If you take someone into this realm and they find out that I chose a difficult relationship or I chose a difficult situation or circumstance, it actually transforms the meaning of that relationship or the meaning of that situation or circumstance in their mind. And the transformation can often be enormously healing. But I really like doing this on a case-by-case basis because each person's circumstance or situation is different. Now, as a general principle, I would take you back to that concept of the law of free will, that on some level, we are choosing. Either we're choosing overtly or we're choosing maybe even under, we don't really want to do it, but we say yes, or maybe it's a tacit choice. But on some level, choice and free will is very important. Sometimes maybe we're doing something not necessarily for us, but maybe we're doing it to benefit someone else, to give them a chance to learn a lesson or to experience something. Maybe we don't want to do it, but on some level we agree to it, and there's a deeper meaning that is involved in relationship. And I guess what I'm saying is that in this life between lives realm, that is a place where we can really begin to understand exactly for you what's going on with respect to those questions. So hopefully that helps, and thanks for asking it, Estelle. And please feel free, everybody, like Estelle did. If there's stuff that you want to see on the next broadcast, please, suggest topics, ask questions, and I will definitely review those. And if it makes sense with the schedule and what's coming up and whatnot, I'll work it in if I can. So thanks again, Estelle. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling down. I'm going to take 1 or 2 more here. Colleen Bailey is saying, I know channelers that can do past life readings. So yeah, a person had asked before if I can see your past life, and I said no, but there are people that can do that. What I think is, my bias is if you have the experience yourself, it kind of, well, anything that is a first person experience is always going to be different than if you have a third person experience. And with stuff like past lifetimes or life between lives, there can be a lot of skepticism. But if you have the experience yourself, I think it changes your relationship with what occurred. And it changes maybe even the meaning for it for you in your mind about, is it real? Is it fiction? Did I make it up? All that stuff. So I love it when people have their own experience and then they can decide what it means. Okay. Oh yeah, here it is, Barbershopper doll. Thank you. Psychometry. I don't know if that's what I said before. Did I'm starting to lose it, but that's the one where, I took off my ring, I gave it to this woman, she held it, she looked at it, she gave me her ring or her necklace or something, and I looked at it and I just let the images come. And that's where the images of this child underneath a hut in a village that was being raided, and the phrase in my mind, "The king is dead." That's where that came from, psychometry. So thank you, Barbershopper doll. I really appreciate that. In fact, you must get a round of applause for that. And I just want to make sure we're answering everything here. Oh, here, just quickly. So past life regression, and then what I described before when I was talking about to Mr. Mind meditation, did you just do a past life or did you go through a healing process at the end? That healing process that I described is just one of the ways of healing a past lifetime. Other ways that you could, other things that are available that are out there would be things like EMDR, that rapid eye movement that a therapist can take you through. They just have to be open to past lives. They can help you with things that happen in this lifetime, and that's one of the ways. There's a neuro-linguistic programming technique called a trauma reversal that I've used with many, many, many of my clients that can be very, very effective to take the emotion out of the event. So you can remember back to the event, but not have the powerful emotion. Another one would be desensitization. So in a hypnotic state, taking a person back through the event over and over again and desensitizing it, especially after you've healed it. So I mentioned that thing about drowning. I might consider, once we healed the acute wound of that person trying to drown you in a past life, Mr. Mind meditation, of then with your past life self, slowly getting in the water and then maybe working up to where you're swimming together, right? To rewrite the meaning of that event or what water means in your deeper mind. And then the other one is havening. So this is something you can look up online, what havening is. But it's another way of kind of breaking off the negative emotion from the event in your deeper subconscious mind. These are all ways that I am aware of healing old traumas from a past lifetime, or even in some cases in your present lifetime. All right. What else do we have here? Excuse me. AW. I sometimes get a sense of who someone is when I first meet them. That sense is never wrong. Yeah, I mean, I think that might suggest that you are deeply in touch with what we might call your intuition. Again, that part of you that when you have a big decision to make and people say, what does your heart say? What does your gut say? Or sleep on it, they're really talking about, we're all grasping at what is this thing? And if we just call it intuition for now, you might have a lot of practice with that. It sounds like you really trust yourself with that. And I think it could be argued that that part of us is enormously powerful. And what is it picking up? Well, it could easily be picking up unconsciously. It could be picking up things like body language, vocal tone, cadence, pitch, volume, all of the meaning that's communicated through our voices. It could be picking up a person's, what we might call their aura, or their energy, their etheric body. Who knows? But it's pretty awesome that you're able to tap into that and be able to trust it in a way that it works for you. So cool. Thank you for mentioning that. 30-day Jeff is saying, I find it impossible to self-regress. Has anyone had luck doing it by themselves? So I guess my first question for you would be, are you talking about regressing yourself into a past life just by like sitting in a chair? Or are you talking about listening to, say, a past life regression track, like ones that I have on my YouTube channel? If it's just sitting in a chair, which I suspect it is, you're asking to do something really difficult. You're trying to do two things that are sort of in opposition to each other. You're trying to be able to be call it the explorer, the person that in order to be successful, you just have to be able to let go. And you're also simultaneously trying to be the guide, trying to, in a systematic way, guide you through this past life regression, excuse me, and then maybe even try to heal it while you're there. So I'm able to do this. I mentioned this before in this broadcast, right at the outset of this broadcast, talking about taking myself into a past lifetime where I was killed in battle. And I was then reunited with my 4 small children and my wife. And I burst into tears and everything else. But I also have 15 years of experience doing this. So, I would definitely say, yeah, you can regress yourself. Absolutely. Is it hard? Yeah, it's really hard because you're trying to do two things that in some ways are in opposition to each other. You're trying to be the explorer, to let go and just let everything be. And you're also trying to be the guide, which is you're trying to be on point and make this happen. So it's not easy, but it can be done. Oh, and here's Mr. Mind. I think he's answering the question I had. The fear of water went, I think it was healed, by meditating deeply into the why. I found that I was a man somewhere in Ireland. I got murdered by a group of men. Okay, so something about meditating on this deeply allowed you to release the fear of water. Next question would be, and you don't have to answer it, but would it be, did it go from a 10 down to a 0? Did it go from a 9 or a 10 down to a 3? Was there any reconciliation with these men? Did you understand why they did this to you? So those are all things that I would find really interesting if you feel like answering it at some point. Let's see here. Just scrolling down, we'll take 1 or 2 more. So Todd Hunt is saying, I have another question. I hear about an awakening, meaning what I'm trying to figure out. So I think what he's saying is, what does that mean? What does the awakening mean? I'll give you my take on it. I'm not saying I have the final answer on it, but I think it's probably true. Well, okay, so just go watch the first Matrix movie and watch it not as an action film, but watch it as a documentary. That may answer your question. The idea that, and Elon Musk even talked about this, that he believes we're all living in a computer simulation that is created by our mind. And the idea is that we've all been kind of sleepwalking through an illusion. And that perhaps because we're moving from one age, which is a 2,000 plus year period, the age of Pisces, into the age of Aquarius, that there's a quickening, a raising of the vibration because of astronomical reasons. Like 2 suns, Sirius and our sun, are moving closer together. And that there's this raising of the vibration. And with the raising of the vibration, it's like we're waking up out of a deep slumber. And we're starting to see things as they really are. And with this is a lot of pain. I mean, when a child is little and their teeth are coming in, they're teething. The teeth are cutting through the gum and it hurts them. Sometimes when their bones are growing, it hurts them. It hurts to grow. And I feel like awakening is sort of the ultimate growth for us. And I think as a human race, we're all going through this now. Could this be part of the reason that we're dealing with so much chaos? Perhaps. But hopefully this represents maybe a beginning, a way to begin thinking about this. I hope that was helpful. Let's see here. Oh, cool. So Barbara Shopper Doll is giving some advice to 30-Day Jeff about self-regression. And she's saying you can set up a mirror and a candle behind you. For me, after 10 minutes, I saw myself morphing into a person I was in a past life. It was wild, sort of terrifying at first. So that's a technique that works for her. What I might suggest that you do before this is that if you're religious or if you have an affinity to certain ascended masters, that you call them in first, or at a minimum, you call in like a white or a golden light. If you believe in God, bringing in the light of God, and then going through this. Or bringing in your spirit guide first, and then going through this. So when I work with a person one-on-one, we're always bringing in the spirit guide first, or maybe an ascended master, using their wisdom and intelligence to then decide if we're going into a past lifetime or not, and if we go into a past lifetime, which one we go into or not. We want to make sure, I want to make sure that we're kind of like spiritually safe, if you will. And I think Barbara Schopper-Dahl's technique sounds awesome, and I think that kind of technique's been around for a long, long time. The only thing I would add to it, for if you know for whatever it's worth, is to set up that kind of basic layer of protection. Like when you get in your car, put on your seatbelt and then start driving. Okay. Wow. So Dara O'Sullivan is saying he did that technique and his father appeared. And he said, I jumped out of my chair. That's really intense. You know, it's super, super powerful, obviously. Oh, awesome. Susanna Cousteau is saying, yes, I used to be afraid of heights, but after I remembered my past life concerning the fear, I calmed down. I still don't like high places, but I'm not freaking out either. So that's a case where she probably went from like a 9 or a 10 down to like a 5 or a 6. She doesn't love it, but it's not what it used to be. If you were interested in taking that fear down further, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, you could probably go back to the same lifetime where it was created and work on healing it. So maybe you were pushed off, or maybe you blamed yourself because you did something, in quotes, stupid. You can heal that and maybe take it now from a 5, 6 down to a 3 or a 4, or maybe even a 2. So thank you for that. And then Mr. Mind is going deeper into what Barbara Schopper-Dahl talked about. You can do it in the dark, even staring in the mirror. Your eyes will set to the dark. Staring in your own eyes will show the person beside you / past life. Really cool stuff. Hey, Shannon Marie, welcome back. Good to see you. Scrolling down here. JW Fat, good to see you here. Welcome back. Shannon Marie, Legal Eagle, awesome. I love that you guys have relationships with each other and support each other. That really means a lot. Here, Kelly Davies is saying, what about those who have soul contracts? That's another really common area to look at when working with someone. So in the case where I think Dee was talking about a relationship issue, you can ask, do I have a soul contract with this person? If so, what is the soul contract? Is it still in my highest and best interest to have this contract in force, or is it time to terminate the contract? Is it time to rewrite the contract? One of the things that I think about a lot is that when people get married, if they get married in any kind of religious setting, there's 2 contracts that are formed. One is the legally binding contract underwritten by the state that says these 2 people are married. And the second contract is a kind of spiritual contract. When there's a divorce, generally speaking, only the state, aka legal contract, is dissolved, and it leaves the spiritual contract in force. So whenever I work with somebody who's been divorced and they're having relationship issues, I want to make sure we go back and we dissolve the spiritual contract between these people, because that could serve as an impediment to their next relationship. If you've promised spiritually to be with this person until you die, to be true to them, to forsake all others, now you get divorced, but you don't dissolve the old contract, you may have a real internal issue with forming a new relationship. So I'm going to take one more question. I know I always say I'm only going to take 2 more, and then I ended up taking 4 or 5, but really, I'm just going to do one more. I promise myself and you. And I hope you guys will consider joining next week, Friday live at 5 Eastern US, for the open roundtable. All right, let's see here. Ramona Oliver, greetings from Norway. Awesome. Glad you are here with us, Ramona, and hope you keep showing up. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. Okay, here's an awesome question. It looks like your name, it's a beautiful name, and I'm not sure I can pronounce it. Tahira? Tahira? Tahira. I hope that's right. Hello, Peter and everyone, it's Tara. If two spirits have a history of incarnating together and hurting one another, taking turns doing that, like a ping pong game. Where was that? Taking turns doing that, like playing ping pong or tennis. What is the way to break this cycle? And then she goes on to follow up on that with, should they finally make peace in order to get out of the contract? What if only one party forgives and moves on? The other one's still holding on. Does that mean they still continue incarnating together? So this is a great question. And this actually is fairly common. In the United States, there's a famous feud between two families called the Hatfields and the McCoys. It could be like in Shakespeare, the Capulets and the Montagues. So Romeo, Capulet, and Juliet Montague, they just start killing each other, like two mafia families that have a turf war. And it just goes back and forth. One lifetime, this one hurts that one. Next lifetime, the one who was hurt hurts the other one. And it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And your question is excellent. How do you break the cycle? Well, the answer is, first, you find out there is a cycle. You find out there is a pattern. And if you understand how far back it goes, it helps you to be motivated to really want to clean this up. I believe it's done by acknowledging, in the case of this kind of pattern, that we're both at fault. We're both these fools who keep hurting each other one lifetime after the other. And we're probably destined to do it indefinitely until we wake up. Once you know that, it's about forgiveness. And if both parties know, if both parties understand, this is going to keep going on and you're going to keep suffering, you're going to keep getting wounded over and over again. If they understand that, if they really understand that, then they are going to be willing to forgive. Because nobody wants to be consigned to an eternity of that kind of pain. But sometimes it has to be made clear to them. For example, you and I are working together. We find out that you and this person in your present life have been hurting each other lifetime, 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 lifetime. So in your mind, in your consciousness, at your sacred space, in the presence of your spirit guide, we bring this other party in. And we ask the party, are they willing to put down the sword? Are they willing to forgive? Let's say, for the sake of argument, they say, no. She did this to me, I'm never going to forgive her. Okay, great. So then you just start asking questions of the guide in the presence of this person. If person A does not forgive, are they going to come back again and suffer the same kind of pain they suffered the last time? The answer is going to be yes. How many times has this happened in the past? More than 2? More than 10? More than 15? How many times will it happen in the future? Will it be indefinite? Who benefits by this arrangement? Answer, no one. Who suffers? Well, that person suffers. How about the people that person loves, like their children or their parents or their friends? Do they benefit? No. Do they suffer? Yes. Is that person able to bring their gifts to the world? No. You see what I mean? Like you're kind of building a case if they're recalcitrant, if they say no. If they still say no, what you can then say is, are you willing, person A, who is unwilling to forgive, are you willing to step into a state of forgiveness for 30 seconds? Just to feel what it's like, with the proviso that at the end of 30 seconds, you can go right back to the place you were before, that place of resentment and unforgiveness. They're almost always going to say yes. When they actually step into 30 seconds of feeling that kind of bliss and that kind of freedom, and you ask them, okay, do you want to go back to the old way? They're not going to say yes. They're going to say no. I want this place of forgiveness. Because two people who've been hurting each other are actually handcuffed together. The handcuffs are pain. Every time you think about them, every time they think about you, one or the other feels pain. And those are the handcuffs. And to be free, you have to forgive. That's how you break free. So when you think about them, if you ever do, you don't have to feel pain anymore. So, very long answer. Gave a couple of different suggestions about how this goes. And sometimes that forgiveness process is not easy. Sometimes it's a real negotiation. I feel like a spiritual lawyer sometimes, presenting evidence, letting them have 30 seconds in a state of forgiveness with the deal that they can go right back to where they were before. And when the people feel that kind of release, when they feel that kind of freedom and peace, they don't want to go back to the chains. So thank you, Tara, very much for asking the question. Awesome question to end our live broadcast on. I hope you guys really enjoy your weekends wherever you are. It's wonderful to have people here from the Nordic countries. Finland and Norway are represented. Ireland, as always, with Dara is represented. AW is representing the United Kingdom. We've got a lot of people here, of course, from the United States and probably from other places. So thank you for joining. I hope you guys will consider coming back next week and subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And have a blessed weekend. Take care.